Hey guys, Chairman here, and today we will be talking about Assault Lily. Recently, I've seen a lot of Assault Lily lists top in Japan, especially ones featuring the level 1 bar combo, which is really exciting because I love this deck so much, and I think it's a really strong deck in the current meta. So I want to showcase my version of the deck today, and kind of how I've optimized the list in a way that might be different from some other people. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go over every single card in the deck, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below, and I'll do my best to respond. But first, really quickly, let's go over the deck and what it does to people who are not familiar with the deck. So the crux of the deck focuses on this card, this level 1 Yuja Climax Combo. Climax combos with Goldbar. It has the effect on attack. You can choose one of your opponent's level 0 characters. It can be front row or back row, and you can send it to the waiting room. Then you reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's a level 1 or higher character, you get to add that character to your hand. Now this combo, honestly, is not very good. Removing one of your opponent's characters is really cool, but only being able to remove level 0s is not really that strong. And also, the card that you add to your hand is random, and you can miss, which means that sometimes you don't get to remove anything, and then you don't get to add anything to your hand, and so your combo just kind of falls flat. However, this deck features a lot of other cards that help synergize with this combo to make it even better, to a point where I don't even know if it's fair that it's so good. The other cards in this deck is what makes this combo super good. The most important card that synergizes with this 1-0 Yuja combo is actually the 0-0 Brainstorm back row. So this Brainstorm has the effect at the start of your main phase and climax phase. You can look at the top card of your deck. What this helps you do is guarantee your plus with the Yuja top check. So if you see that it's a level 1 or higher character, you attack with the Yuja first to get your guaranteed plus. Also, it helps you with Brainstorm's main phase. If you start your turn and you notice that there's a climax on top, you can just get a Brainstorm and it's a free easy +1. And that information really helps this deck deal with the uncertainties that come with the level 1 combo. The other half of the package comes at level 1 with this 1-1 Shinrin back row. So this 1-1 back row is level support, and you can tap it to -1 level to one of your opponent's level 2 or lower characters. So suddenly, your Yuja combo can now snipe level 1 cards, both front row and back row, which is really great. You know, if your opponent has like some kind of level 1 Brainstorm or some kind of level 1 back row looking at you data life, your Yuja deals with it fantastically. And then when you hit level 2, you get access to this amazing 2-1 event. It's an event that you can -1 level to anything on your opponent's board, and then you can also salvage a card from your waiting room. So the combination of this event and this back row means that you can pop level 2s and even level 3s if you have 2 events. You can also get the event really easily by ditching a climax at the start of your main phase, which is great because, you know, we're running bars, so it's very easy to get climaxes in your hand. So yeah, this minus level package allows this Yuja to pop basically anything. So no card is safe from the Yuja pop. And the 2-1 being able to salvage basically means you can just salvage a Yuja if you're missing the Yuja, or you can salvage any other really important piece in this deck. So the minus level package, super strong. And if Yuja wasn't enough reason to run the minus level package, Assault Lily comes with 2 really important cards that also take advantage of this minus level package, and that is the 0-0 Shinrin and the 1-0 Riri. So everybody knows the 0-0 Shinrin. It's an amazing card. When it gets into the waiting room, you can pay 1, clock yourself, look at top 2, add 2 lilies. So huge plussing engine, but it's also a level 0 clock bomb. And when you use this card to minus level, it becomes a level 1 clock bomb, or even a level 2 clock bomb. So this gives it a lot of reach into the mid and late game, where this card normally in other decks would just be dead. In later games, it's like, wow, this card actually kills level 1s and level 2s. The 1-0 Riri is a level 1 bomb, but with the back row, it also becomes a level 2, a level 3 bomb, and you have an effect on startup. You pay 1, and it gets the ability to top deck your opponent's card. So now your 1-0 bomb can not only reverse your opponent's level 2 and level 3 standby targets, you also hard remove them from the board by top decking them. And by top decking them, you also add potential damage. This entire package is just so good. This is what we want to maximize with this deck. This is what I think is the strongest thing that Assault Lily can do that just kind of beats everything and is super unfair. Especially against some decks, this deck just completely rolls them over. It's such an unfair matchup. I built a deck to take full advantage of this package and just to maximize this in every way possible. So here is my Assault Lily list. Now some of these cards should look pretty familiar and other of these cards should look kind of strange, but we'll get to every card in its due time. So the first question I'm going to answer is, what is the best climax spread? So I've tested 8 bar, and I've tested bar pants, and I've also tested bar gate. And I think the best climax spread by far is bar gate. So the problem with 8 bar is that your secondary bar combo is not very strong at level 3, and your secondary bar just adds that climax to your hand before level 3 a lot. So you get to play a lot of climaxes, but you're not actually plussing, and the deck runs out of steam pretty quickly, especially if you miss a few Yuja combos, then your deck really starts to diminish in speed. You can also play double level 1 combo, but then you get into some really weird space issues. Also, you're running events, so the other level 1 combo is a miss, which is really unfortunate. I tried bar pans with the idea of just trying to cycle the level 1 bar as much as possible. But in those decks, I also noticed that I was flooding a lot of climaxes, and it was actually kind of hard to get characters. And that's when I realized that what the deck has the most issue isn't actually getting the climax, because you'll just get the climax pretty often, you'll trigger into it or you'll draw into it or stuff like that. The problem is getting enough Yujas, so playing the climax is not a neg. And so when I realized that, that's when I realized, okay, salvage is the best trigger. Because when you trigger salvage, you can get an important piece, or most often you just pick up another Yuja. And so you always have 1 or 2 Yujas hanging around so that when you draw a bar or you trigger a bar, you can easily go into another Yuja combo. Because this deck, if you just Yuja combo 1 turn, your opponent can recover pretty easily from that. But if you Yuja combo 2 turns or even more, that really cripples your opponent, and that's when it's really hard for them to come back. That's how you kind of seal the deal. If you just combo once, it's really not that remarkable of a deck. So that's why we go for the salvage trigger, the gate. And it just combos really well with the best level 3 finisher in Assault Lily. You should be familiar, the Yuriri combo. So yeah, you kind of get best of both worlds here. Alright, next, the elephant in the room. What the heck is this card? Alright, so this card is, you probably don't even know her name. Her name's Enna. This card is, when you play it, you can reveal the top card of your deck. And if it's a Lily character, you can put it under this card face down as a marker. And then when it has a marker, it gains 2k cross turn. So it's just a 4k beater with a marker. Now, obviously, Assault Lily has a really, really strong double rare red runner that is also 3k power cross turn if you have another Lily character. And that's what most decks play. And that card's really, really good, especially with the Shinlin Bomb. That combo is phenomenal. I don't deny that. So why have I chosen to play this marker card? The reason is because I'm focused on making 1-0 Yuja really, really strong. And one thing I really want is to get the pluses with 1-0 Yuja. If you get the plus and you can pop a back row, that's a +2, right? So you always want to get that +2. And this helps you top check for the +2. So if you play this and you reveal the top card of your deck and it's not a miss at level 1, then yeah, you can just leave it there and then you climax combo and you add it to your hand. It's perfect. Especially if it's like a Yuja, that's like perfect. Also, if it's a character, you can marker it and then when you brainstorm, it's a brainstorm 5. Top check, a lot of times it gives me so much information alongside the brainstorm, because the brainstorm will top check at the start of turn, and then I'll know that information so I can play accordingly with this marker card. So this marker card scales really well into late game. I think especially in this deck where I really want to maximize the Yuja combo and play with the top information of my deck, that I think this is actually your best level 0 card to play as a plus. So I play 4 copies of this, 4 copies of this for a level 0 plus, because I also really want to establish a lot of stock at level 0 and just board dominance, kind of force my opponent to commit to a field to remove my field. And then once they've committed, then it's really easy for my Yuja to get a lot of value. The next card I really want to draw attention to is this 0-0 Spawn Riki. This is the X factor in my list. Before, when I wasn't playing this card, honestly, the list felt really clunky. Sometimes I was bricking. This card basically solved every problem I had with this deck. So the Spawn Riki, it summons a cost 0 or lower character to the field of your level or lower. So yeah, at level 0 you can summon level 0s, at level 1 you can summon 1-0s. And the second effect is, when you play it, if you have 2 or more other characters, you can draw 1 and then ditch 1. What's really cool about this effect is if you only have 1 other character on the field, you can play it, use the Spawn Riki effect first, and then you meet the requirement for the draw ditch, and then you can use the draw ditch second. Now the draw ditch is really important in this deck because let's say at the start of your turn, you just look at the top card of your deck and wow, that's a card you want. Maybe it's a climax or it's a Yuja and you really want it. You can just play this, draw it, you get it, right? And then the spawn is really strong because this deck just has so many good spawn targets, right? You can spawn the level 0 Shenlin, you can spawn the Brainstorm. The Brainstorm is actually your most important spawn target. This deck loses if you can't find Brainstorm because that's your primary way of getting advantage after your level 1 turn. So my number one priority with the Spawn Riki is to guarantee the Brainstorm. And I don't want to run more copies of the Brainstorm because once you get basically 1, you're good to go because your other back row is this. So having the Spawn Riki gives me the flexibility. You can also spawn the 1-0 Yuja combo. The Yuja combo gets power on attack, so spawning it has no demerits whatsoever. You can spawn the 1-0 Bomb. Fantastic. The Bomb has a startup effect, so again, you can spawn it and then use the startup effect. The 1-0 Tazusa Fumi card is also a great spawn target. That's actually the reason why we run it. It's a fantastic spawn target. 6k beater, just has really good synergy with this. And finally, you can spawn the On Death Fuka. Look at 4 at a level 1 or higher to your hand, and this is like one of your best ways to mill. The Spawn Riki, if you do the Spawn Riki effect and the draw effect, that's also a mill 3, which is great. This deck does have some issues with milling if you don't hit the Brainstorm early. So I mean, this just solved every single issue I had with the deck. It enables really, really easy and powerful tri-fields. You Spawn Riki into Shinlin, and that's just the freest tri-field you've ever seen. Definitely play this card at 2, no fewer. This is just the X factor that makes this deck just really strong. I briefly talked about the Fumi Tazasa card when I'm talking about the Spawn Riki, but I just kind of wanted to highlight another use of it. Sometimes when you hit level 1 and you don't have the bar in hand, that's pretty normal. You know, sometimes not everybody can be perfectly lucky. It's actually really good to go into the Tazasa first because it gives you an extra trigger check, kind of, to grab the bar. And it's a 6k body, which means that your opponent is probably pressured to commit a large board and to swing over it to remove it. But if they're doing that, they're usually committing some kind of back row or some kind of board presence that you can easily counter with the Yuja combo on the reverse swing. So yeah, just having a big 6k body, 6-5 with the back row at level 1 is actually really good for the deck because you threaten board presence and your opponent has to respond. Otherwise, they just give you free pluses. I'm running it at 2 copies. I really like it. It's also a great secondary level 1 attacker. And of course, super good synergy with the Spawn Riki. Honestly, if I wasn't running Spawn Riki, I would not run this card. The last thing I want to talk about is my level 3 line, which is kind of interesting because I'm running a very bare bones line of Yu Yu Riri. People might say, oh, that's not very consistent. And oh, there's not enough blue in this deck to consistently get the Yu Yu out. Well, the thing is, honestly, if you're using your resources early to pop your opponent's back row, you don't really have that many resources left for Yu Yu Riri. And you don't need the Yu Yu Riri because your opponent is completely crippled. So it doesn't take a super crazy endgame just to finish them off. But however, sometimes your opponent's going to play around your 1-0 combo. Sometimes they just don't commit a back row for like many turns. And in which case, yeah, you want something to build towards that can still finish them off. You don't have to spend resources, so you just hold a lot of your resources for this combo. And running the 3 events, these events help you targeted select and salvage these, which is pretty nice. In addition, you don't need to go double Yu Yu Riri every single time. Sometimes you can just go 1 Riri, 1 Yu Yu, and that's actually like a pretty decent amount of finishing power. And in those cases, you can use the Fumi as a bridge to help pay stock and also meet color requirement. You can play the Fumi and then you can play the Yu Yu from hand without having blue, and then you can just play the Riri, and that's 5 stock to do your full combo. So you don't need actually that many resources. That's why I'm running the Fumi at 2. Also, Fumi at 2 is really good because if you're popping your opponent's back row and they're not 3-stock encoring, which some opponents choose to 3-stock encore, some opponents don't. I think it's a player preference. I don't really think one is right against this deck, but if they're not 3-stock encoring, they're going to have a lot of stock, and usually it's pretty clean. So the Fumi comes in really clutch. That's why I want to see it all the time. Obviously, if you really like the combo and if you're like, well, I still want to see it all the time, then yeah, by all means, feel free to index more into it. You can drop a Fumi, or you can drop the Yuja and some other things. You can go like up to 4-2. 4-2 is like the I want to do this every game, right? But I'm just saying it's not very necessary in this deck because of how strong your game plan is before level 3. That your level 3, you just play stuff down and opponent's just probably going to die. And the last thing is why I'm running 1 copy of this Yuja. I mean, this Yuja is really fantastic. It swings super high numbers, just completely removes something from the board. No counterplay, no events or backups, which is really strong. And the combination of Fumi and Yuja allows you to summon an entire board for just 2 stock. Because you can Fumi into the Yuja and then use the Yuja to heal a card from your clock to the board. And that's an entire full board of potentially 2 soul swings just for 2 stock. So even in the games where you're kind of super bricked and you've used all your resources and you hit level 3 and you still need to apply pressure, the Fumi Yuja play is just super strong. And that's it for this deck profile. Let me know in the comments below what you think, and I'll see you guys next time.